of the hour now. Thank you for joining our final edition of the webinar for 2020. It's been an amazing pleasure to have you connect with us over the past 8 months since it started. We are excited with how the community has grown. Of course, we're also very thankful to all of the amazing speakers from across the continent who have shared their insight and expertise to help us improve our practice as professionals in our classroom. But it only gets started from here. We promise that we would ensure we continue to bring in the best speakers, conversations, and insight that will improve our practice and ensure that the teaching and learning of maths and science on the continent is at its possible best. So thank you once again and welcome to this edition. My name is Shola Olateju, the Africa STEM Ambassador, a specialist story at the PhET Interactive Simulation here at the University of Colorado Boulder. I will share my screen quickly just to get the slide started, and we will be on our way. No, not this. Sorry, just a minute. There you go. Perfect. Zoom is being clever this afternoon. Great. So that should do it. So thank you once again and welcome. My name is Shola, like I mentioned. It's kind of shiny. It's a sunny afternoon, and it's been a great day, and I'm happy to have you all join us. I'm not here alone. We have our speaker for the day already on the call, as well as Zach. Zach, would you like to say hello to everyone?
Yeah, thank you, Shola. And hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. And I'm looking forward to a great sharing. Thank you.
Okay, great. So just some housekeeping before we hand it over. As always, as it become our culture, we love to know where you're joining from. So please write in the chat your name and country, or anything fun that we should know about you. Please drop in the chat. We'd love to learn more and know more about where you're connecting from and some of the experiences you've had. You can share some of the things you want to see in the new year, or your favorite session from some of the interactions or some of the sessions you've participated in during the course of the year. We're going to introduce the speaker just right after some housekeeping rules. As always, we meet every third Wednesday of the month, where we bring in researchers or practitioners who have, of course, extensive experience on the use of PhET Interactive Sim on the continent, and understand the context on the continent to share their experience, what they've learned, and recommendations, so that we can have new strategies and ideas that would improve our practice. So this is what the break time looks like. We meet at 4 p.m. GMT, which is more about 5 p.m. West African time, 6 p.m. Central African time, and 7 p.m. East African time. This project, or this webinar, is brought to you by the PhET Interactive Simulation. PhET Interactive Sim is a project at the University of Colorado, which creates free interactive maths and science simulation. PhET Sims are based on extensive educational research and engage students in intuitive, game-like environment where students learn through exploration and discovery. PhET was founded in 2002 by the Nobel laureate Carl Wyman. Our goal is to improve the global teaching of maths and science education, and in line with our goal, this webinar is one of the expression. So you can catch up with past recording of the webinar. We have the YouTube page where all the recordings are archived. So if you want to revisit, or you have one of your favorite sessions you would also want to share and pass on, please visit our YouTube page. And of course, you can access all of the videos there. So during the presentation, after we introduce today's speaker, we will not be taking questions while the presentation is on. So please use the Q&A feature here in Zoom. You'll see the question and answer feature. You can write your questions there. Myself and Zach will be happy to get to them while the session is on. And if it's a question directed at the speaker, we'll wait till the presentation is done. We've saved about 20 minutes or sufficient time to be able to address all the questions we might have. We'll address them and just a few additional information to end the year on a great note. And then, of course, set the tone for an amazing 2023. So please write in the question and answer session feature here on Zoom. If you're joining via Facebook, you can also write in the chat there, and we'll be picking it up and ensure that the speaker attends to your question. We also have a group on Facebook, a community on Facebook, which is PhET Educator Africa, where the majority of the conversation here spills to. So you can get help or connect with other users of PhET on the continent. If you have questions, of course, you can reach out directly or post it there, and someone within the community will be happy to get to it. So we encourage that you join and also participate and join in the conversation. The webinar is usually not enough to address all of the points. So we have about an hour and we try to cover as much as possible. But if for any reason there's any question you have that was not attended to or we didn't have a chance to get to, then the group is a good place to extend it to. So today we have the privilege to have with us Martha Mwinga. Sorry, I did not get the surname right. How hard to pronounce when she come up. Martha is currently a PhET Fellow, but she comes with a unique blend of experience. Martha used PhET Sims as a student and then went on to carry out a research during her teaching practice to test the effectiveness of PhET. She's currently a classroom teacher that implements PhET in her classroom, and also, just like I started with, is a PhET Fellow. So she's gone through the use of PhET as a student, as a teacher, as well as a teacher trainer. And today, she's going to be sharing with us some of the experience. She's going to share her experience, but also her recommendations in terms of the viewpoint of the student, of the teacher, and also onboarding and getting teachers to get comfortable or embrace the use of technology or PhET simulations in their classroom. We will now hand it over to Martha. Martha, are you there? I will hand the mic over to you now and let you just get started from here. Thank you and welcome.
Yes. Thank you, Shala. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Martha Mwinga. So you actually did pronounce the surname correctly. That's correct. And I'm super excited to be here. And I'm excited to, share my experience with you guys, share what I've been up to when it comes to PhET. And also just a disclaimer, technology is failing me today. 1 minute, the camera is working, the next is not. So at least you can see me for a minute. Okay, so can I proceed, Shala, with my presentation for today?
Yeah, sure. Yes, please go ahead. If the camera continues to flick, I would advise that you just keep it off for a while. Hopefully it picks up before.
Okay, cool.
Thank you. Yeah, you can share your screen now. Stop sharing.
Okay, let me share it just now. All right, so good afternoon, good evening. Well, it's evening here now. Good evening, and like I said earlier, I'm Martha Mwinga, a PhET Fellow from Zambia, and I'm also a teacher of physics at Lusaka International Community School in Lusaka, which is the capital city of Zambia. This evening, I'm excited to be sharing with you my classroom experience from using PhET simulations, not only as a PhET Fellow, but also as a teacher and as a student. So if you have questions as I go on with the presentation, please drop them in the chat dialogue. And then at the end, like Shala said, we should be able to address them. Now, I'll begin with my PhET journey. So I only came to learn about PhET in 2017 during my Bachelor of Science in Physics Education at the Copperbelt University. So one of the doctors who was taking me in an educational course was taking us through the different teaching methodologies that we can use in teaching science. And it was during that time that he put up a slide that talked about using technology and digital facilitative tools to try and teach the science phenomena. So we were given an assignment to go and look up any websites that were providing, learning and teaching tools that teachers can actually use in their classrooms. And it was then that I discovered PhET. So it was the first website actually that popped up on Google. So I, out of curiosity, clicked the link, opened the link, visited the website, and I was amused by the many simulations that they had then. They've got a lot more now that they had then, and I was actually shocked that I never came across such a website. So my dissertation, my project was in waiting. I hadn't figured out what research I was going to carry out. So when I discovered the PhET website, I immediately went to my supervisor and said, oh, I think I found something very interesting that I would love to research on. So my research focused on the impact of the use of PhET, physics education technologies, on grade 11 pupils' achievement in learning simple kinetic theory of matter. So the picture that you see on the bottom left is me in 2017 when I was carrying out my research. So this was the experimental group that was given the opportunity to learn the topic simple kinetic theory of matter using PhET simulations. Now, if you've explored the PhET website, you agree with me that that simulation in front there is very familiar. And here I was trying to explain to them the effects of pressure, the effects of adding more molecules into a container. During this time, I started appreciating what PhET, the use of PhET is like in a classroom. So when it comes to PhET, when I discovered PhET and when I decided to start using it, I learned that with PhET simulations, the beauty about them is they're accessible on all three main gadgets that a teacher would use. You can access PhET simulations on your mobile phones, on your laptops, and on your computers. Now, I know most times teachers would raise concerns like, oh, our schools don't have laptops, our schools don't have computers. But let's say you are in a setup where students are allowed to come with their phones. It is advised, I've advised my students I've encouraged them to try and download the PhET app, which allows you to actually have access to the simulations offline. Not all of them, but more than half of them, you will be able to access them offline. Now, coming from a government setup, by setup, I mean high school. During my high school, I was in a class of about 47 students. And so I think my teacher then would have asked himself to say, I have 3 computers or 10 computers. The internet is not the best. So how am I supposed to possibly tell my students that, oh, today we're using PhET simulations to learn this topic? The beauty about PhET simulations is you actually only need a computer. If you're looking at a big classroom, and a projector. I'll take you back to this slide here at the bottom left. What happened here was we only had one projector, and I was using my personal laptop to teach them this topic and to project this simulation. And if you look at the student in the bottom left corner of the picture, it's not so clear, but she was the one who was actually regulating, making any changes on the laptop while I was in front trying to explain what was going on. So we get to see here that, okay, as a teacher, you only need a projector when teaching a big class. And like I mentioned earlier, if you're using your mobile phones, you're using your laptop, you're using your computer, if you have already downloaded the PhET app, which will be properly installed on your phone, on all three gadgets, then you can access them offline. Now, I'm one person who just got so spoiled by online, everything to do with online. So what would happen the past 2 years, I've fallen victim of internet failing me. So there are times when I would say, today I'm using this simulation on projectile motion on electricity. And then early this year, the Wi-Fi got fried, internet was down in school. I did panic. I made sure my students did not notice that, but I did panic. So because of lesson planning, I came up with a contingency plan of what I should do if, let's say, the projector didn't work. But this time around, it wasn't the projector, it was the internet that actually failed me. So it was then that I then went back to the website to recall and appreciate that, oh, PhET simulations can actually be used offline. So don't stress. Whether you're in a rural area or you're concerned about your data being used up during your lessons, once you have the app on your mobile phone, on your laptop or computer, then you're rest assured that you will have access to most of these simulations during your lessons. I enjoy using PhET simulations in my classrooms because I find them very interactive. It's like my students have these light bulbs on top of their heads, and what my strategy is to first allow them to explore, to play with the simulation before I explain what is going on. And you see, when I put them in pairs, there's this excitement. It's like the light bulb comes on when maybe one of them suggested something and it actually works. And you see the interactivity of the PhET simulations with not only you, but also the class amongst themselves. It also encourages discovery learning. What I mean here is, I will use the easiest, at least in chemistry and physics, which is states of matter, where you ask a grade 7 pupil, oh, what do you think would happen if we hit this container? And I've gotten interesting answers where they'll say, oh, I think the molecules will still be where they are. Oh, they'll start vibrating faster. They'll move from one point to the other. Then you say, okay, so try it. Let's see. And you see the excitement in your students' faces when what they had predicted or what they had suggested is actually correct. So it encourages students to now play around with the simulation more, explore different parameters, and in doing that, they actually learn by themselves most of the things. And then you just come in as a teacher, to polish up one or two misconceptions that may have been presented. The beauty, again, I have found PhET to help me when it comes to visual representation of what is perceived as the almost impossible phenomena. In science, you agree with me that we've got a good number of experiments that are considered very risky, extremely risky. And as teachers, I would sometimes opt to use theory, because my lab technician will share, okay, this one, we can't use it on grade 7s, maybe we should use it on grade 12s or year 11s. So my concern now is, but how do I help my students visualize this concept? I'll give this example. This one time I asked my grade 8s what they thought would happen if we decided to heat water molecules in a container. And it was a quiz, and one student said the molecules will begin to expand. So I took a screenshot and I just projected it on the board after I'd marked the papers. So I asked the class, okay, I got this interesting answer. What do we think? Why did this person say this? And this grade 8 student said, oh, miss, because when you put rice in water and you start heating the pot with rice, when the rice is ready, it expands, it becomes bigger than it was before. So this child's logic was actually right. Yes, the rice does expand, but now I had to explain that it's because of the absorption of water, and that's why the rice did look like it had expanded when it was ready. But I then introduced the basic states of matter to now show them that actually the water molecules are not expanding. It's different factors that are being introduced and changing as we heat this container with the water molecules. So that's the beauty about using PhET simulations in your classroom. I've appreciated the beauty. I've, sought the PhET simulations, but it's important to also share, some of the constraints that exist in the classroom. First things first, the internet. Luckily, after 2019, 2020, I think all internet telecommunication providers are really trying to improve on the internet accessibility, because we saw its value more than ever during the pandemic. And whilst that's been worked on, I think poor internet is still existing in most parts of the African continent. And so poor internet may mean you would have difficult access to PhET simulations. But remember, that's when you fall victim, like me, when I decided to always work online and not work offline. But if you download the PhET app, then trust me, your limitation, your constraint when it comes to internet will not be a problem. And if you're invited for talks, let's say a conference, and the first thing they tell you is there's internet there, there's Wi-Fi, please download the PhET app before you can even go into the conference. Talking about internet access, I decided to share with you some of my findings during my MSc project in 2019-2020 at the University of Leeds. So I carried out a research on the potential of using physics virtual laboratories in Zambian learning institutions. Now, I shared my survey to Zambian teachers and lecturers and education specialists on different social platforms, social network platforms that I had access to, looking at the fact that I didn't have the opportunity to come to Zambia and collect my data, so I had to share it online. Now, from this, if you look at the bottom right picture that I have shared, Zambia consists of 10 provinces, and out of the 10, you will notice that I only got feedback province. I got concerned about why I did not get any response from the other 2 missing provinces. So upon looking up some articles, some research carried out by the Zambia Information Communication Technology Authority, right? Research showed that, during 2019, between 2015 and 2019, some of these provinces actually were still facing challenges when it came to internet accessibility. And so this helped me understand why perhaps some teachers were not able to have access to my survey, and also maybe they were offline or they were not on any of the social platforms that I had shared my survey. Now, coming back to the constraints, also one other existing constraint is the lack of gadgets in most schools. I teach at an international school. It's a private learning institution. And luckily for us, our school has been able to purchase and provide over 25 Chromebooks to the departments. Our job is just to book the Chromebooks beforehand, and then whenever we want to use them in our classrooms, we can use them. And that's how I get to use these Chromebooks with my students as we try to use PhET simulations in our lessons. But again, relating to a government institution, because that's where I come from grade 8 to 12, gadgets, the use of gadgets is still a limit in most schools. During the most recent ADIA Triennale that I was given the opportunity to represent PhET in Mauritius, I had a talk with a good number of delegates from various parts of the African continent. And kudos to Ghana, who are doing a very good job in this area when it comes to lack of gadgets in most schools. During my chat with some delegates, they shared that this is one constraint they're trying to overcome. They're trying to find ways in which schools can have at least 10 or more gadgets, laptops, computers in their schools to help with improving the quality of teaching and learning in those schools. And I think it's also another objective that most of the countries in Africa are working on. So this constraint, as much as it exists, it can be overcome by, starting with one gadget. Just start with your phone, start with your laptop and a projector, and you will overcome it. The one other constraint that I have experienced is the little training on the use of visual aids and digital facilitative tools in teaching and learning. We still have teachers today who have never used, a laptop to teach. They've used it, yes, to write their projects in order to get their degrees, but they've never used it to teach. They've never had access to simulations or virtual laboratories, or they've never even projected it. And so we need to accommodate these teachers. How can we do this? It's important that we try to reach out to as many teachers, both in the rural setup and in the urban setup. So this constraint also has a solution, and it's something that PhET is trying to do. Through the PhET Fellowship program, we have been trained as educational leaders to also go and train other teachers out there on how to use PhET, how to use technology tools to facilitate teaching and learning. So as much as it's a listed constraint, I'm happy to share that all these constraints that I've highlighted actually do have solutions. And I think these solutions will help overcome them. I believe so. My experience from using PhET in my classroom has led me to learning about 3 strategies that I only came to learn more about during my PhET fellowship. The 3 common strategies I use are whole class inquiry, interactive lecture demonstration, and concept questions. With whole class inquiry, you're looking at, let's say this is an example, I have 50 students, okay? I project my simulation and then I start asking them, okay, this is what is going on. What do you think would happen here? Oh, let's share our thoughts. They get into small groups, they discuss, come back as a class, and then we discuss what we were observing and also what we think would happen, or what we think could be the reason for that variable changing. I use whole class once in a while, but I have a favorite amongst these 3. The second one is interactive lecture demonstration. And this is my favorite, which is why I decided to include an example of a worksheet that you would use. So on my right, on your right of the screen, you should be able to see an interactive demonstration prediction sheet. So with this one, I give my students prediction sheets. I explain, I highlight the learning goals that they should expect for us to achieve at the end of the lesson. And then I give a few details about what the lesson is about. Now, during this time, I ask them a question. What do you think would happen if we heated this container? And so the students have the opportunity, there's a dialog box where they write down their prediction. After writing down their prediction, I then give them 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes open play time, where they get to play with the simulation without me telling them what the simulation is all about or what each parameter or variable is in that simulation. During this time, they then go back onto their worksheet and write down what they're actually observing. So that's another dialog box. From the open play, we come back into the classroom and discuss. Oh, what did you notice? Or what did you see? Why do you think this happened? And during those discussions, and even as I explain to them, students then write down what is actually going on. And as a class, we then come up with conclusions. I love this strategy because my students take completely full ownership of their work. You can even see the pride even as they submit their worksheet, because it's like they've just walked out of a lab and they carried out this experiment and they're confident that their findings are 99.9% true. The third strategy you can use whilst using PhET simulations in your classroom is the concept questions. With concept questions, here again, you are, presenting different questions to your students, and with the aid of the simulation, you are trying to answer those questions, and then students get to take down notes, get to see if, okay, our answer is correct, or okay, what about if we change this? Would that affect anything? And so that's another strategy that you may use. But all in all, in using all these 3 common strategies, I have found my students to be actively engaged. They are always excited about what is going on, what they're actually seeing in the simulation. It allows my students to be explorative. you would think you are done with the lesson and they'll say, oh, Miss Mwinga, what about if we change this? That's exploration. Now they're more curious about what would happen if we work the other way around. My students are also, I found them to make interesting predictions. I enjoy marking their papers when I'm looking at their predictions. It also just tells me where the child is at when it comes to envisioning certain concepts, certain phenomena. So that's also something to look out for. I would recommend that you prepare yourself for confusion. Not every student will receive the simulation as perfectly as you would have imagined. Expect one or two to be confused. They would not even know where to start from. And so I encourage that during the open play time, when your students are exploring the simulation, you're also walking around to see what is going on. So that in cases where a student is confused, you quickly show them, oh, do you want to try to move this up? Do you want to try to change this? Then they go with the flow now with what you prepared for the lesson. Also, during this time, going back to exploration, PhET simulations give our students a game-like feel. You agree with me that most of our students are exposed to video games, PlayStations, advanced video games that even I as a teacher don't even know how to maneuver my way around it. But for those who have been exposed to such, you even find them getting excited with this simulation, and it's like they're picturing it as a video game. And so it's even more exciting for them. And at the end of it all, my students are usually and mostly satisfied with their findings and conclusions, because like I said earlier, they're taking full ownership of their own work. It's a PhET simulation for me is like a student walking into their own lab, carrying out their own data collection, writing it down, and then presenting it to their teacher. As a teacher, what should we be ready to do? One, you should expect and be ready to spend a good amount of time on exploration. I would advise giving a window of 5 to 10 minutes. Sometimes, if you just want to have a game-like day, you can sacrifice your whole 45 minutes and just make sure that it comes with a good number of prediction sheets that will keep your students active throughout. You should have backup when technology fails. If the internet shuts down, your laptop crashes, quickly draw whatever you can, depending on the lesson, and get back to it. Don't panic. And lastly, planning. There's a reason we have lesson plans, so plan how you intend on using PhET simulations. You can't just wake up and say, I'm going to use this simulation today. No, you have to make sure you as a teacher are already familiar with how the simulation works. I was enrolled on the PhET Fellowship program earlier this year, a very exciting journey that I embarked on. And sorry, I received a call. So I must say it's been eye-opening, mind-blowing, very insightful. It's like the PhET Fellowship program brought me out of my comfort zone. I was in this tiny box where I was comfortable with what I had. But upon being enrolled on this program, I've come to learn that, we've got teachers out there, education specialists out there with a vision bigger than the vision that I had. So it was a wake-up call to start thinking big too. On this program, we have been trained on how to be educational leaders. We have been taught on different types of leaders we will come across, different types of policies we will need to be aware of, how to handle certain types of leaders, and how to present your case as an educational leader. Why do I want, for example, my government to adopt the use of PhET? Why should they fuse it into the syllabus? This is an example. The PhET team, which includes Shola and Zach and Rebecca, have taken us through that so that even as we go down that road, we are well prepared for that. I was given the opportunity in October to represent PhET at the most recent triennial, ADEA triennial in Mauritius. Here we went to share 2 teachers were invited, myself and Tuwaya. We were given the opportunity to present to delegates on how PhET works, and we had the opportunity to treat very important people as students and teach them. It was beautiful, and it allowed them to appreciate or have a picture of what their students actually experience in schools, so that even when they go back to their respective countries, they can say, PhET is a beautiful tool, and let's find a way to make sure our teachers are trained on how to use PhET. I have also been able to grow my teacher and professional network. I have been given great opportunities to work with my PhET fellows, like fellow colleagues, and also to interact with a wider network outside PhET. And it's because of the exposure that PhET has presented to us. And from this journey, it's still a journey, it's ongoing. I have come out with 3 words that I want to encourage each and every teacher out here today. Dream, collaborate, implement. PhET is calling for applications for the next cohort. And if you are that teacher out there who is dreaming about being a PhET Fellow, now is the time. I dreamt about it, like, I think I'd want to be a PhET Fellow. Let me just try it out. I dreamt and it came to life. I was shortlisted. But in doing that, the journey doesn't stop there. PhET gave us the opportunity in the beginning to share our rivers of life, to share what our vision was for the next 5-10 years. And during that time, PhET asked us, as the 15 PhET fellows from the African continent, what do you want as a team? And we talked about how we would want to collaborate, work together, improve the teaching and learning in Africa, which is the second word, collaboration. We may dream, but if we can't collaborate, how will these things, or how will our dreams or goals work? Now, whilst we dream, whilst we collaborate, it doesn't have to stop there. You can collaborate with Shola, you can collaborate with Zach, but what's the point of collaborating if you're not implementing what you've just discussed? So from collaborating, I would like to encourage every teacher and education specialist out there to implement what we come and present on webinars, what we present during our talks out there, because it's pointless if it just stops at writing on a paper. And in implementing during my PhET Fellowship journey, I have been able to work with my fellow colleagues from Nigeria, for example. We've got Rita, who's been holding exceptional workshops, and she's given us the opportunity to work with her during certain times in those sessions. That's collaboration, and that's implementing. Even during the webinar I held earlier in September, my PhET fellows came in, worked with me as well. That's collaboration, that's implementing. So if you're a teacher who's going to be in the next cohort, look out for these 3 words. My time may probably be up, but what my advice this evening to teachers? As a student, if you're a student teacher right now, please continue to explore multiple ways in which you can improve the quality of teaching and learning. I started this journey in 2017. I never thought I'd be giving a talk today, but from being a student, I'm now a PhET Fellow, and I'm now giving my advice from my experience. And so continue to research. There's new data every day. Make it a habit to go online and see what our teachers up to. As a teacher, I will encourage each and every teacher to continue to use various teaching methodologies. Don't just stick to one. Alongside the traditional way of teaching, think of creative ideas. Our students are exposed to a lot of technology and they easily get bored. So find ways to excite the lesson throughout so that you don't see one student dozing, because it makes me sad when a student is dozing and I address it in class. So it tells me I need to introduce another method next time. Especially after COVID hit, I think the world is advancing really fast. And so as a teacher, you need to keep up with that advancement. We need to try and keep up with that pressure. It's not pressure per se. The beauty is at least we know that, okay, I'm changing some of the old ways I was doing things. So please let us move at the pace in which the world is advancing as well, especially with respect to technology. As a PhET Fellow, I have learned that there's indeed room for change and development. And even when you feel like, this is it for my country, this is it for my continent, go and find something else that may be missing and complete the puzzle. You should be ready to collaborate, and you should be prepared to be an educational leader. You can't be an advocate for change when you can't even preach it, when you can't even lead that group that you want to embark on this educational change that you're about to start. As a researcher, I just saw, before the talk started, I saw my former lecturer, Professor Shumba, who's here today. So as a researcher, we should continue to seek areas of improvement. Come what may, there's always something we should improve. And I think that's why the prof is here today, so that he can hear from his former student and see if he can go back in his office and find another area of improvement. But whilst we find those areas of improvement, whatever findings we come across or come up with, we should justify them. And in justifying them, we should make sure we implement them. Research is useless if it just ends at a paper. It's useful if you now say, let's try out what Shola what his findings were. Let's see if it will work for us, so that we can get back to him. We shouldn't just say, oh yes, this was perfect. No, challenge it. And if it's perfect, go with it. Or if it's agreeable, then you can go with it. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you so much, Martha. That was a whole lot taken. But there are a few questions. Just to touch on a couple of the things you said. I like the way you summed it up with dream, collaborate, and implement. Without implementing, all the preparations really do not count. I also remember, you also made a very key point in terms of ensuring that there's a backup plan, because technology might fail. So even in scenarios where there is internet connectivity, the SIM work as effectively offline. So it's best to download and use it offline and not be dependent on the internet. I think those are very good points. I also like the way you wrapped the PhET Fellowship in. Just like you mentioned, the application is on, and you can find the link in the chat at the moment. I should add now that there is an information session that will be coming up tomorrow. So if you would love to learn more, that would be that should be a conversation you should join in, so you can learn, of course, understand what the expectations are, how to prepare, and be a part of it. So thank you so much, Martha. So we'll allow for questions now. There are a couple of them lined up already. Okay. And we'll come back again. So if you have questions, this is a good time to write in the chat or use the question and answer feature. If you have a question and you're watching on Facebook, please drop in the chat as well, and we will get it from there. So I'll take the first question, Martha. The first question reads, thank you for your smart presentation. Do you believe that PhET simulations work independently of context? In other words, can the simulation work effectively across a range of grade levels, countries, access to technology, and culture? This is from Zemenu Miret.
Thank you for that question. Yes, PhET simulations can be used independently, regardless of the cultures we come from. One thing that I found, I'll start with language, is at the moment, PhET sits at translating its simulations in over at least 160, am I correct, languages, Shola? Should be 150 languages, translations.
Yes, they're about 150.
Yeah, 150. And so regardless of where you are on the continent, regardless of where you are in the world, the key is for you as a teacher to plan on how you can fuse it into that topic. If you plan, then you will not have any challenges with PhET. PhET will go with anything and everything, but it works effectively if you plan. If you just bring it in without planning, then you will think it's impossible to use. But if you actually plan and use it yourself beforehand, then you'll find it very effective and efficient. So yeah, it works in any context, to be fair, so long it aligns itself with the objectives that are highlighted in that particular topic that you want to teach.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Another question I think Zach can attend to that is, when is the upcoming PhET Fellow taking place? That's coming up next year. The applications have opened and it's open till next year. So you can join the information session tomorrow. There are two. There's one in December tomorrow, and there's another in January. So if you're unable to make tomorrow, please join the next one so that you understand the process, and of course you can put in you can enter before that is done, before the application closed. Thanks. I should share my screen again. Okay. The next question is from Chikoye Kalutwa. Great presentation, madam. Specifically in Zambia, how far has the pushing of PhET as a pedagogy into the Ministry of Education gone in terms of training teachers of science in the use of PhET SIMs? So I think I would rephrase the question briefly to just say, what advice do you have? You can share the experience in Zambia, but then what advice do you have in terms of advocacy and engaging the education ministry in terms of understanding how PhET works and how it addresses some of the concerns they have in preparing their students for math and science education or practical work?
Okay. Thank you, Kalutwa, for the question. Actually, so far so good when it comes to pushing for PhET as a pedagogy in the Ministry of Education. Not that I've had any direct contact with them, but I did have the opportunity when we were in Mauritius to hold dialogues with delegates from the Ministry of Education who were representing the ministry there. And so during that time, they were actually amused about some of the works that I have been doing with PhET. And they were again amazed that this is something that has already been ongoing, after I shared with them that we held a webinar earlier in September on the use of PhET and introduction to STEM. I am currently having chats with the Teaching Council of Zambia, because that's our main body as teachers. That's where we do start from when it comes to references. And once we finalize with our meetings and our plans, we should be able to reach out to as many Zambian teachers on the progress made on the use of PhET and implementing it in our pedagogies.
Okay,
but
great.
keep using it until then. Kalutwa and any Zambian teacher, keep using it. We'll be holding another webinar sometime in February. We will call out for registration next month. So be prepared for that. And let's keep telling another teacher to tell another teacher that, oh, actually, we've got the opportunity to be trained. We'll have some workshops on the use of PhET for Zambian teachers and the teachers across the African continent as well. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. So there's a question about the link for tomorrow's information now session. You can look for that in the chat now, or you would also find the link posted in the group, in the Facebook group for PhET users in Africa. There are a few questions that I think do not, we can be addressed directly, or I think Zach will get to that, around maths, 3D geometry, dimensional geometry, and biology. Yeah, I think Zach will get to that. There's a question from Richard Boni. What's your advice in getting activity sheets well prepared for lessons? You did share one of the activities you prepared in terms of inquiry, interactive lecture demonstration and all of that, but do you have any tips in designing activity sheets that will effectively work when teaching a STEAM-based lesson?
Yes, I do. To answer that question, is it okay for me to quickly put up an activity sheet? Is that fine?
Sure.
Okay, let me just look it up. Just give me a second. Let me go to my form 1 folder. Can we take any other question as I do that?
Yes, I think I feel like we should get back to the question which you responded to already, just for context. I don't know if Zach wants to take that. There's a question about the use of PhET. While you're at that, Martha, just let us know once you're ready and we'll hand it over. Zach, would you like to speak to that in terms of how if the sim works across grade levels, countries, access to technology and culture?
Yes, thank you so much for that question. So what I would say is that I have seen teachers and learners use PhET simulations across different contexts and across different cultures. So first, science is science in Kenya, in Liberia, in the US. An atom is an atom, and science is the same. So there are simulations that you don't need to really do anything to them to contextualize them. If it is about, numbers and you want to teach kids about numbers, there is the number play, and there are resources there on the PhET simulations that you could creatively use them to teach kids in your own context. But having said that, I think there are opportunities where, as an educator, you can draw examples from within the context environment that you're in, and combine that with the PhET simulation in order to drive a point or to get learners to apply the concept that they are learning in their own context. In terms of the sims working effectively across the range of grade levels, yes, we do have simulations for elementary learners. We do have simulations for secondary school kids, and we do have simulations at university level. I have seen a number of teachers use simulations, for example, an advanced level simulation to teach a concept at a lower level. So it really depends on your learning goal. So for example, I have seen a teacher use building an atom simulation to teach about integers. It is a chemistry simulation, but this teacher is using this simulation to teach integers to learners who are at lower grade level, but they are focused on just learning integers. And this simulation is like a really advanced level simulation that could be used in secondary school kids. So it also depends with your own creativity. In terms of access to technology, so PhET simulations could be used in a variety of contexts. There are scenarios where I've witnessed teachers in rural Nigeria, in Edo State, for example. The only thing they have is just their own smartphone, and they have the app on the smartphone, and they get groups of learners to come and play with the simulation on the smartphone. I have seen others just do a printout of a PhET scenario, and then they take that printout to a classroom setup, and then kids have discussions around the setup that is there. Some teachers, the only thing that they have is a laptop and a projector, and they just use that for whole classroom situations where they have 80 kids facing them, and they are projecting. And even some do not have projectors. So they would get just kids coming around a laptop as a station or a computer as a station, and then they go back to discuss a scenario. And then there are, of course, other blessed schools that have, devices for individual learners or small groups of learners, that teachers also have designed activities around that setup as well. And then lastly, I have seen kids who they don't have devices at school, but they have, their parents have smartphones at home. So I've seen, I think there's a teacher, I think in Botswana, who was saying what he does is that you can send the HTML file of the PhET simulation to the WhatsApp group of the parents. And when kids go home, the parents go directly to that PhET simulation and they try to, answer questions. So it really depends with the context and also the creativity of the teacher on how they can use these PhET simulations. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Zach. We are running out of time now. Martha, do you still have you're going to share?
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
you can do that, if you can do that quickly in a minute or two, that would be great, so that we can finish just on time and not keep anyone longer than we should.
Okay, Richard, thank you for your question. My advice in getting an activity sheet well prepared for lessons is to first things first, introduce your students, make it a habit for them to take down notes. Like in the beginning, write down what you think would happen when we do this, just a short sentence. And then from there, you can now introduce a whole prediction sheet. So this is one that I had prepared for my year 7s. And at the first time they were worried that it looked so bulky, but then I took them through step by step what they were going to do. So in short, you need to be prepared to make sure that your activity sheet is implemented accordingly and efficiently. You explain what the prediction section is all about. Thereafter, you tell them that after you've given your prediction, just give me a short sentence why you've shared that prediction. From there, you tell them, okay, now play with the simulation. For starters, in short, take them through step by step, until in your 5th prediction sheet, they're able to work well on their own without you having to explain what needs to be done in each dialog box. So guys, this is what our prediction sheet looks like, teachers out there. Yeah, I was trying to be quick. 1 minute, done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Martha. Please, if you have additional questions, please, you can take them to the group on Facebook and we will be happy. Martha is also on the group, so she should be able to get to them as well. So just feel free to connect and reach out there. Just before we close, just for those who might miss it, this is just some quick information about the information session. So it's coming up tomorrow, 15th December at 5 p.m. GMT. And the second session in January on the 26th at around the same time. There's another version in Spanish, which is more for Latin America and does not apply to us. So it's the English, the session for Africa is in English at these times. And the applications will close by the end of February. So that's till 1st of March. So technically just think of it as end of February, and please, I would advise that you get your applications in as possible. Of course, if you have questions, feel free to write to us via email, and we'll be happy to give you guidance or respond to it. We've come to the end of today's session, but before we leave, definitely we would like to take time out to appreciate everyone who have participated in one or more sessions during the course of the year. You've made the sessions worth our while. You've made it fun. We've learned a lot from you as well, and we also want to hear from you what you intend to see next year. If you would like have speakers or conversations that you think would be beneficial, please get across to us, and we'll be happy to consider that in our planning for future sessions. So thank you, everyone. To learn more, please, you can visit the website at phet.colorado.edu. That's phet.colorado.edu. Of course, if the information to join the session or become a PhET Fellow has been shared, you can also contribute by translating into your language. Increasingly, all of these themes are now available in up to about 13. Work is being done in up to 17 African languages, but we've made significant progress in about 12. And of course, for learners who are not in which English is not their first language, they also have opportunities to explore science in their language, or of course in their mother tongue. And we're looking forward to seeing how much of a change or access that also opens up to learners who might struggle otherwise. So thank you once again, and we wish you an amazing end to the year. See you again next year when we come back with even a better experience and webinar where we bring in amazing speakers and continue the conversation. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and till later. Bye for now. Bye, everyone.